Tonight's Wheel of Fortune will air in its entirety overnight at 1:37 a.m. If you're playing the Home Sweet Home giveaway, Wheel of Fortune will accept any puzzle solution or word of your choice as an entry into the giveaway.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Eric Snidel with your weather first.
This Buffalo Kickoff Live NFL Draft Special on Channel 8 WROC is sponsored by Auction Direct USA.
Welcome to the Buffalo Kickoff Live Draft Preview Special. I'm Josh Reed alongside Thad Brown, Matt Perino from Syracuse.com. We're live in Cleveland. Back in the studios in Buffalo, we've got Heather Prusak alongside Sal Capaccio from WGR 550 and Tim Graham from The Athletic. Last year's draft was all virtual. This year it's a little bit of a return to the norm, Thad.
Yeah, and you can feel it too. There are already fans here in Cleveland. The experience is about 300 yards that away. It will be filled with 50,000 people per day. Not quite the capacity. It's still limited because of pandemic and social distancing rules, but this is way closer to a normal event, more so than anything the NFL has done in over 12 months.
Not quite as many prospects here this time around, though, is there?
No, there's not as many prospects, but there's energy in the air. I mean, it was kind of rainy when we left Buffalo this afternoon, but we get into town. I was looking at my dashboard. It's 80 degrees outside. Beautiful weather on the water. Where else would you rather be?
Absolutely. Bills have the 30th overall pick in the first round coming up tomorrow. This is General Manager Brandon Beane's fourth year leading the draft for the Bills. Time flies, and once again this year, they did mock drafts to get ready.
Each time I put a different scout on the clock as the GM of the Bills, just to see what they would do. And, you know, they got to use our board. And so I think people understand what we're looking for. And, you know, what's the hardest part is picking for the league when you're picking, you know, because I assign each scout. You're the GM of the Cleveland Browns. You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so they have to study kind of what their team roster makeup is, also their quote unquote needs, you know, maybe their top 3 or 4 needs. Select one of those, because that happens obviously a lot. And so they got to study all those, and then we mix it up, and I'll give them, 10, 15 minutes. We're going to do it again. Now, this scout, now you're the GM of the Cleveland Browns. You're a different scout, just to and let's don't always pick the same thing. And then I don't pick, I'm kind of the commissioner, so I just throw some trade scenarios up there just to kind of hopefully give us a different decision that we would have to make, some different players on the board when our pick comes up.
That was a little bit of an interview that we did earlier today with the Bills general manager. And I asked him, hey, has there been any trade talks about teams coming up to 30, possibly trading out of the first round into the second round? He said that while they haven't discussed specifics, that he's had some teams contact him about the possibility of moving up. Now, if they stay at 30, we all know that a lot of Bills fans want to see them take a cornerback.
Now, look, I've been Team Dane Jackson going back to last October. I don't think corner's as big a need as everyone else does. But if a guy like Caleb Farley is available at 30, distinctly possible, because he's had the 2 back surgeries since the last time he played, on top of the fact he had a torn ACL in 2017, he might have enough of an injury red flag that a talent like that drops down to 30. I think he's the best corner in this draft. Sub 4, 340, 6'2". I mean, he's got a big enough frame to deal with larger size receivers. If I'm the Bills, I take him, but I don't have the access to all the medical records and that kind of stuff, which I think for every franchise is going to be the yay or nay on whether they pick Caleb Farley.
And we have an example not that long ago. Everybody remembers Bryce Hall, the cornerback from Virginia, right? He breaks his leg. He was looked at as maybe the best cornerback coming out of that draft. Breaks his leg, falls to what, the 4th round?
5th round.
5th round.
Now, to be fair, I think Farley's a lot better player than Hall.
I don't know about a lot, but he's better.
He's better, yeah.
You're right, but I mean, we saw how far he fell. What do you think about the corners?
Yeah, so I think, I was actually having a couple conversations this week, and to Farley's point, he is probably the best cornerback in this draft. The problem is the medicals, and it's not even so much that you can't check off the medical. A lot of teams just don't know, and that's what could probably push him out of the round. I do know also Greg Newsome from Northwestern. I think that there's some evaluators, more so maybe on the media side of things, that like him more than Farley. He's physical. He can kind of do everything. He's that balanced player. And I think if you're going to take a swing at 30 at cornerback, we know that Sean McDermott can develop these players in the secondary. You want a guy that kind of can do a little bit of everything. I think that's Newsome.
Even me on Team Dane Jackson, Newsome or Farley is fine at pick 30 for me.
Yeah, here's the thing with Newsome. Look, we came out of that Chiefs game going, this team's got to get faster on defense if they're going to keep up that track meet with Kansas City's offense. Newsome is a sub 4.4 guy. The other guy that is J.C. Horn. He can flat out fly. I'm not sure, to your point, that Newsome or Horn are going to be there at 30. So then it comes, do they have to trade up?
Yeah, I don't think the Bills are going to be in a position with those guys. I think Farley's the only one that's really in Buffalo's range, maybe Newsome.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. We're going to go back to the studio now for a little bit of talk about the guys up front. We know the Bills need to get a little younger on the edge. What do you guys have to say about those defensive ends and edge rushers?
Yeah, you know, Josh, to your point there, you know, looking at what the Bills have at edge rusher, at defensive end, they have to have a little bit of a youth movement at that position, because right now they've got Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison. They have to bring a little bit more spark at that position. And there's a couple guys in this draft that if the Bills, if Brandon Beane did decide to go that position, there's a couple top edge rushers that we're going to see go in the first round. Sal, you want to kick things off here?
Yeah, I'll talk about a guy that also has a lot of medical concerns, and that is JAELAN PHILLIPS, the defensive end out of Miami. But this is a guy who, he could walk onto the Buffalo Bills right now and get a heavy rotation and be a part of their defense. The question is, do the Bills knock him off their board because of 3 concussions? He transferred schools from UCLA to Miami. He's also had other injuries. If the Bills have him on their board, I think they'd be salivating at getting him on their team. The question is, do they, just to Matt's point earlier about medicals and how much they might just basically eliminate anybody here. But I think this could very well be the most talented pass rusher in this draft, who also could slide down the board.
One of the top-ranked guys is AZEEZ OJULARI from Georgia. Now, I had him in the mock draft that we did last week as being taken way before that the Bills had the ability to take him at 30. The Bills might have to trade up to get him, but he is a 6'2", 250-pound beast of a player. He led the SEC in sacks, tackles for losses, and forced fumbles as a redshirt sophomore. He sat out that freshman season. He redshirted because he was recovering from a torn ACL as a senior. Beyond that, though, his medicals have been pretty good, which is one of those big problems that we've been talking about all throughout this previewing of this draft, and how they don't have the ability to take a look at the medical reports and give the physical exam. So a safer pick, it seems, relative to other players with more injury history. AZEEZ OJULARI, I just don't know if he's going to be available when the Bills pick at 30.
And, you know, you talk about how, of course, we always hear Brandon Beane, every draft that he's done so far with the Bills, talk about not drafting so much for need, but taking the best player available. But when you do look at what the Bills need, there were 2 big things, 2 big takeaways from Brandon Beane's end of the season Zoom call, and that was they've got to run the ball better, and they have to get to opposing quarterbacks better. They have to put more pressure on opposing quarterbacks. That's one thing in that AFC title game. They didn't do enough. They didn't make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable enough in that game. We know how much of a dynamic player he is, but they just could not get to him. So this is a position. They took A.J. Epinesa with their first pick last year in the 2nd round. Brandon Beane, he's said that he doesn't really care about what they've done in the past. If that's the best player available, they're going to take that. A guy that I really like, another one of the top edge rushers, is Michigan's Kwity Paye. I could also see if he's there, which I think the Bills would have to trade up to get him, just because of how dynamic a playmaker he is. But that's another guy that I really like as well. Another one of the top edge rushers that we're most likely going to see go in this first round. All right, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back here on our Buffalo Kickoff Live Draft Special, we're going to head back out to Cleveland. The guys are going to take a look at 2 running backs that might just be around for the Bills when they make their pick, if they stay at 30. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're watching Channel 8 WROC, the official home of the Buffalo Bills.
They were there from the very first morning. They were the ones who listened